Concerns over a huge jackpot lead to tough questions for leaders of the Texas lottery.
You know, I haven't got mad this whole session yet. I'm about ready to.
Senators say lottery policy enables money laundering. We look at what comes next.
Killed on her way to dinner on Valentine's Day.
She was strangled to death.
Families come to the Capitol sharing powerful stories of loss. How they're drawing support for tougher policies to keep people accused of violent crimes from getting out on bail. Parents and families across Texas struggling, waiting for money they're owed.
There's never enough time. There's never enough money.
We look closer at programs meant to track down child support evaders and compel them to pay.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. We start with an astonishing story from the state capitol. Senators accuse a state agency of enabling criminal activity. It happened Wednesday as members of the Senate Finance Committee questioned leaders of the Texas Lottery Commission. Senators spotlighted how overseas investors won a $95 million Lotto Texas jackpot after buying more than 25 million tickets with almost all of the possible number combinations. A Houston Chronicle investigation found the Lottery Commission provided extra terminals to courier businesses that worked with the group. That helped them process millions of tickets in just a few days. Lottery leaders changed their policies on terminals, but say they don't have the power to ban lottery courier businesses. Lawmakers believe this opens the door to criminals.
This is 99% probability of money laundering. True?
I couldn't commit on that.
Well, you need to be able to commit because you need to be able to say what are the obvious signs, because normal consumers don't go buy $25 million of $1 tickets.
John Moritz, the chief politics reporter for the Austin American-Statesman, covered this hearing and joins us now. This is stunning. A state agency accused of enabling money laundering. How did lottery leaders respond?
Lottery leaders were on the defensive. Senators Betancourt, Perry, and Hall came at them with some force, and they were not backing off. Typically, Finance Committee hearings are how much money do you need? Will you settle for half? This time they were wanting some answers on, how this jackpot was arranged, what the lottery officials knew, how they knew it, and why didn't they do anything about what they saw.
We did hear Senator Betancourt basically say this is money laundering. This happened almost 2 years ago, though. Has there been any investigation in that time?
The Texas Sunset Commission has looked into it. It's not an investigation like you would say a grand jury or anything like that, but they did look into it. They were very critical of some of the processes of the Lottery Commission, very critical of management and oversight of the Lottery Commission, and that's what set the stage for the hearing in the Finance Committee.
So during that time when Sunset was involved to now, what's really changed with the whole narrative?
Well, the new director of the Lottery Commission, he is reasonably new. He has made some steps to minimize tickets being sold like millions at a time, try to get a better handle on who these lottery retailers are and are they really acting within the spirit of the law. He's done those things. Whether the senators and other lawmakers are satisfied with them, that remains to be seen, because they certainly did not appear satisfied in that hearing.
Yeah, there was a lot of frustration, even anger from some of the senators. The committee helps determine funding for the Lottery Commission. Any chance they could get their funding cut?
That's a more difficult question. The lottery basically makes its own money through the sale of tickets, and then you take out what they're paying out in prizes. There's generally a $2 billion a year profit, and that goes to the state, to help fund education, to help fund veterans programs, and some other things. So I think lawmakers might be a little bit hesitant to cut that funding revenue stream off, but at the same time, they want the lottery to be run in a more professional, more transparent fashion.
Okay, we'll see how that plays out for the rest of the session, but I do want to switch gears to another big story that you covered this week. 1 month into the session, Texas House Speaker Dustin Burrows released committee assignments. Burrows said it's the first time in Texas history that every committee will be chaired by a Republican. The announcement comes amid complaints that the House is not doing enough to pass priority legislation. Meanwhile, the Senate has already passed education savings accounts and property tax relief. So you heard it right there. First off, give us the big picture. Why are committee assignments so important?
Nothing can happen with a bill in the legislature unless it goes to committee, gets a hearing, and is passed. who sits on those committees is important because the chairman of the committee bills are assigned to, first of all, that chairman has to like the bill. Secondly, a majority of that committee has to like a bill. And then thirdly, it's got to go through even more legislative hurdles before it even can get to the floor. So committee chairmanships may seem like vanity or like who's the most popular kid in class, but these things have real consequences all through the legislative session, especially in the compressed time period that we're facing right now.
Well, you've seen the assignments. Is there anything that stands out to you? I know some people were talking about the lack of female leadership there.
Well, if you look at it, just Republicans as far as chairmanship, there are just not a lot of senior Republican female members. There are a few, and they got some chairmanships, but a lot of them are still new, and you don't want to be handing chairmanships to someone who is not seasoned, cannot defend the legislation when it ultimately goes to the Senate, cannot defend the members, and basically make the judgments of what bills should move and what bills should die.
So, as I said before, Democrats don't chair any committees for the first time in Texas history. Any backlash from that move that you're hearing?
If there was, it was kind of muted. I mean, I left the Capitol on Thursday after it was hearing, and I ran into a few members. Most of those Democratic members I ran into were smiling. They've got vice chairmanships. They got the chairmanships of some of the subcommittees. And I think they feel like at least they're going to have a seat at the table. Whether they get rolled as this session goes on by the Republican majority remains to be seen. But on Thursday, after the assignments were handed out outwardly, publicly, a lot of the Democrats seemed okay.
Thank you very much, John Moritz from the Austin American-Statesman. Appreciate you being with us.
Always a pleasure, Josh.
Lawmakers push for new restrictions to keep people accused of violent crimes from getting out on bail. How powerful stories from Texas families are building support for tougher policies. Millions more requested by the Texas Attorney General to aid the state's child support enforcement efforts. We look at the struggle now for parents waiting on money.